Hello, everyone. I wanted to do a different kind of video today, mainly talking about my process for consuming and analyzing music and how I'm applying that to what I'm trying to do with this channel. So this is a channel devoted to the discussion of metal music and how to analyze it, or how I analyze it, rather. And my perspective on this is I've arrived at metal because I was, at a young age, able to discern that a majority of what is being broadcast to me, whether it's movies or music or anything, that 99% of it is bullshit. It's completely empty. There's nothing behind the process or execution of it. There's no meaning behind it. So when I was young, I always was searching for a different form of art to sink my teeth into. I knew there was darker stuff out there, there was deeper stuff out there, and it was exciting. This was pre-internet, so you would just end up buying records because you liked how the album cover looked, and it was a gamble, but for the most part, it paid off. There wasn't a whole lot of super terrible stuff happening when the metal boom happened. But now every band on earth is a click of a button away, and because of that, I'm trying to be a little more discerning about what I consume, and I can look at things in terms of being a vehicle for entertainment or something that deserves analysis, something that has depth behind it and a message, and something that the artist behind the record had something that they needed to proclaim to their viewers. That's where I'm driven to encounter new music. Knowing that there's someone out there that's really trying to hone their craft, not their skills, but trying to find the best vehicle to get their message across because they have something they need to say. That's what I'm going to be driven towards, not the person that's practicing scales in their bedroom all day, the person that's trying to make the heaviest record, or the one that's going to make the audience move the most. None of that interests me. What interests me is someone that really has that drive, where they have something in them that is unique to them, that they want to bring to the table, and if they give me a piece of art, I'm going to be excited to listen to that. And what I want is to hear something that, as soon as I hear it, I feel like I need to get home to my guitar. I'm inspired again. I need to find that part of me that hasn't really had much behind it for a while. I need to reignite the fire in that way. But there's an argument that comes up whenever you're talking about how to analyze music, because people think that anything that belongs under the artistic umbrella is purely subjective. And that is inherently wrong for a lot of reasons. If you look at what is the most popular music out there that's selling, if you're going to say that subjectivity, that whether or not someone likes something is what gives it any kind of value, then your Cardi B's and your whoever else are going to be the most important musicians and the most substantial musicians right now. So obviously we know that's not true. You don't have to be a metal fan to know that. You know that there's a difference between looking into music as a vehicle for entertainment, or as a vehicle to analyze an artistic statement from. There's no art in pop. It's all the most basic human emotions kind of filtered through a very basic musical structure to get the most amount of people to be into it. And that's another thing, is if you write music for the audience, if you are driven just to get the audience to like you, or get the audience to move, or if you're even thinking what would the audience like to hear when you put pen to paper, that is inherently inhibiting an artistic process. Your artistic message should come from you. You know, obviously we have our influences, and we have what drives us. But if you are hobbling yourself by thinking, what would they want me to do? What would they want to hear? You're already losing artistic merit. But how, you know, it leads itself to the discussion, like, how do we then find the objective worth in music? Obviously, music isn't going to be heard unless it's processed by a person, and we could tell by what sells in music that people are idiots. So what can we do to try to analyze it? So what I do is I look at the composition itself. I look at how the parts of the song interlock, what the mood of the song is based on the arrangement of notes, how consistent it is, and if it's not consistent, why is it not consistent? Is it deliberately inconsistent? All that kind of stuff comes into play. When you look at how parts return in a song, or if they don't return at all, what was the meaning behind having a part appear in a song once, or having a part appear in a song more than once? Was it there just because you established a chorus, or because the parts around it have given it new meaning? That's the kind of stuff I look at. Now, not everyone is going to think about that, and you don't have to think about that. There's a difference between what I like and what I think is artistically solid, and there is intersection there. There doesn't have to be. I like some garbage, you know, everybody does. But when it comes down to only applying value in music to whether or not someone likes it, you know, that how many people go through McDonald's drive-through a day? Is that good food? Obviously not. It's not even food. You know, and most of the stuff we consume as music is barely music. But there's an inherent danger in letting the value of things be dictated by just what is established by the human mind. I understand that, you know, when the sun burns out, no one's going to be around to hear music. Music is therefore not going to exist. But until then, we can look at the basic values of structure to analyze whether or not something has something solid going on in terms of composition, and that'll have nothing to do with whether or not you like it. You know, I can pick up an instrument I barely know how to play and struggle through it, call something a song when it has nothing of value, and hand it to someone. And if you were to tell me that that is good based on whether or not someone likes it, you'd be lying to yourself. You know, there's a lot that goes on in composition that you can hear as you listen to it, and you may not be able to perceive at all. And by relegating all of that to whether or not it gains notoriety through a person liking it is just really selling itself short. And it's a kind of solipsism which is very, very dangerous, you know, to think that quality or anything exists only within the frame of your mind. That is a very egotistical thing to say, and it negates the value of everything around you. And it's a very dangerous slippery slope to be on. And you know, you can look at what I'm saying in my videos and think this fucking pretentious asshole is saying some shit that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And you know, that might be true in some ways. I'm not completely musically learned. I don't have a solid basis of musical theory, but I can look at a structure and determine whether or not it makes sense in terms of the parts that make it up and the resonance it has when you're done listening to it. And that can come, you don't have to be a musician to have that down. I am a musician and I understand that, but I think that if you were to strip away the layers of things and just look at the basis for what a composition is, you don't have to understand music in and out to see that you can recognize themes and how themes are elaborated on, whether or not they're elaborated on at all. Whether or not there's a consistent mood. All of that stuff is something that you should be able to determine even if you don't know the ins and outs of music. And that's the perspective I'm trying to take when I look at music and when I analyze it for this channel. Is I really want to look at it on a very basic level. So when I'm doing that, I'm not going to be looking at whether or not there is a whole lot of technical showmanship to music, because that can it can help or harm your composition depending on what you're trying to say. Nowadays, it's more harmful than helpful. When you are bringing a sense of technicality to music, you have to have a reason for it. You can't just let the technicality be the reason. If you're doing that, you are writing music for the audience. You're saying like, oh, I want to have this reaction out of my my crowd, saying like, oh my God, look what he or she can do on guitar or on bass or whatever. There's nothing behind that is artistic. There's not. I'm not hearing your internal drive. I'm not hearing a focus beyond that of, I just want to look cool doing this. So that's why your bands like Rings of Saturn and such are very empty. There's not going to be anything there aside from just throwing up a label or an aesthetic like, oh, this is about aliens, you know, so we have that going for us. But it's just a bunch of you know, musical diarrhea essentially that is going to get people to check it out based on the fretboard gymnastics, and that they have a very superficial sci-fi leaning to it that's done as an afterthought, and plenty of bands are doing that. There's nothing wrong with dedicating a genre of like sci-fi or whatever to your music, or wanting to express themes in whatever in your music. There's, you know, good metal bands since they've started have been inspired by horror movies, science fiction. You know, it's always been there. But I feel like that base layer of, we are a science fiction inspired band is very much an afterthought nowadays, whereas you know, people beforehand would really immerse themselves in the works of other artists and try to express either the written word that they have done or a movie that they have seen in their music and complement it. I'm just not seeing, in a lot of the modern stuff, I am not seeing a lot of thought put behind what they're doing, aside from the very, very basic superficial merit that goes along with having flashy music with a slightly enticing aesthetic behind it. And that's the type of thing that is going to get a lot of people to check you out, when you have a very basic thing going on that is superficially complex, because people are enamored by complexity, but not to the point where they're going to really try to immerse themselves in anything of actual depth, because it's challenging. People don't like to be challenged. And the issue that you have when you are going to analyze music is, people define themselves through music. People define themselves through the art that they consume and what they like, and they are very territorial about what they like. And when that's challenged, people get defensive and they can't handle it. But being challenged is what is going to make you a better consumer of products and a better artist if you are one. I have made strides in what I do based on challenge, and I welcome it with open arms. I want to have critiques on what I'm doing so that I understand my handicaps and overcome them. But I don't think people and listeners are willing to do that anymore. I think that a lot of people are set in their ways, and our generation is used to being told that they're right no matter what. So they have this knee-jerk response that they are right no matter what's going on, and if they like something, it is inherently good, and that is just not true. So as we move forward, analyzing bands either from the modern era or not. I hope that you gain a little bit better understanding about what I'm trying to do, and I'm not out to squash a band in its infancy because I don't like what they're doing. But I am going to attack it if I feel that what they're doing has no substance behind it, and it is pulling the wool over the eyes of the listener. I expect more out of metal fans, and I expect more out of metal bands. So if I feel like a genre that I love is being utilized to manipulate people, I'm going to want to expose it for what it is. So keep tuning in if you want to see some of that. And if you want to get a better understanding of what I'm doing with how I'm processing things and where I'm finding shortcomings, where I'm finding strengths, I'm sure it'll become a little more obvious as we move forward. But in the meantime, I am not trying to be overtly pretentious in these videos. I'm not trying to slam bands for no reason. I'm doing it because I love the metal genre. I want it to succeed. I want it to get better. I think it can get better. I think that where it's at right now is the lowest point it's been at since its inception, and I know that people are better than what they're bringing to the table. So I'm going to be looking forward to that, and in the meantime, I'm going to be critical of what doesn't meet my expectations of it. So thanks for listening, and keep tuning in.